Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. 1 Timothy 4:12 NIV.
I've got the amazing, the spectacular, the star-studded leather chick sitting in the seat in front of me.
Yay!
Riley Clemmons.
Hi.
So good to actually see you face to face.
It's really good to be here. I'm so happy to get to be experiencing Australia.
Yeah, and you are so loved. So I sort of teased to our community that you would be on the podcast, and I posted a picture of you, and I was like, hey, Riley Clemmons is jumping on board, and every single comment is, we love Riley.
Oh
my goodness, so excited. And so big love from the podcast community to you.
Well, I myself love a good podcast. So I've heard great things too, just about the amazing growth that you guys have experienced through this podcast, and just such a beautiful way to reach people where they're at. So I'm honored to join.
Yeah, there's like a lot of busy mums listening in. There's a lot of people in their high school years. There's a lot of like grandparents tuning in. And I think there's just a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge when we just look at a verse and we say, okay, what's your thought on this? What's your thought on this? And we just can find so much richness. So I want to ask you, Riley,
So good.
What is your first impression of this verse?
Oh, you know what? Immediately, I think back to starting to come into the music industry at a younger age, starting to release music and do it professionally. This was a verse I leaned on a lot.
Wow.
You know, being a kid, which I was under 18 when I first started releasing music. I think sometimes it's really easy, and this is something I've struggled with, to look down on your own self or not trust your instinct because of youth. It's really easy to do. And I think per my experience, I'm 23 now, I still feel like youth. I hope I am.
This verse still applies, don't worry.
Thank God. But it's not one of those things of finding the balance between leaning into the wisdom around you and being a sponge and being willing to learn, and yet also having the courage to not let anybody look down on you because of your youth, and also not look down on yourself.
Yeah.
It's a fine balance. I'm still very much figuring it out.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, do I still apply? So I'm turning 30 at the end of the year. I'm like, at what point?
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm low-key excited, but I'm also like, wow, I had this whole 10-year plan. And my life's turned out a little differently. And for those of you listening, you'll know all about that. But the incredible thing is, I think my first impression of this verse, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, is I just love the fact that you can set an example despite your age or despite your inexperience, and that we can say, okay, right, I can step up, and I can step up in these 5 areas: in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. I mean, just out of interest, Riley, where did you get this verse? Did someone show it to you? Did you discover it yourself as you were reading through the Bible, or how did it come into your life?
I think that when we're reading or consuming anything, including the Bible, I, especially at a young age, was looking for things that I could connect to and that applied to me. And growing up, I went to a Christian school, which was a huge blessing. So with that said, our teachers were able to talk about the Bible. They were able to read scripture aloud. And this is a verse that I remember being read aloud often, especially for a group of high school students. It feels really timely and applicable. And I think, like you said, setting an example in speech, life, love, faith, and purity, they're all aspirational things, right? And I think that as people who love Jesus and as people who are trying to follow him and trying to live more like him, we're all young Christians, so to speak, right? We're all very much Christians in progress. And I think that it's a special thing to be able to attempt to set an example every single day, yet imperfectly. That's what I've done. But I connect to this verse a lot. I really do. First impression is, thank God a verse like this exists, and thank God that that the Lord had the kind and caringness in his heart to write this and have a verse that could so connect with, especially the youth of the world.
Yeah, I agree 100%. What has this verse told you about who God is or what matters to him?
In this season of life, I feel like I'm in a period of time where I'm learning a lot about God very rapidly as I continue to step into my early 20s and what that looks like. And in this season, one of the things that sticks out, including a verse like this, is the compassion of the Lord. The compassion enough to, to preconceive that humans, us people down here on earth, are going to have these questions, are going to have these insecurities, like people looking down on us because we're young and not feeling smart enough or pretty enough or productive enough or all of these things. So I think that when I read a verse like this, not only do I relate to it, and that's kind of the first impression of it, but also it does reveal a lot of the heart of God, in the sense that he is encouraging us from the minute that we're able to process a verse like this in our young ages and all the way through.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in the context of this verse as well, this was written to Timothy, a really young guy who had a pretty big task ahead of him.
Yeah, I'd say.
And just to know, hey, don't let people look down on you because you are young. I think what it tells me, it kind of gives me a little bit of a sass stick, I like to call it. It's just a little bit of like don't let people look down. Like, there's so many ways you could read this verse. If I was to read it, I'd say, don't look at anyone. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Like, there's a little bit of sass to it. And I think, for me, I think I'm someone who, part of possibly my Indian background, there's definitely this whole idea of, observe your elders, respect your elders, and all those sorts of things, which are really great values to have. But I also think this comes alongside that. There comes a time when you have to own your youth in the same way you have to own all sorts of parts of your story.
Wow, that's well said.
And I love this. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. And so maybe for you listening, you've got to read that verse out to yourself with a bit of a sass stick and just gotta be a bit sassy and say it. Like, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, because God doesn't.
I'm taking the sass stick. I'm taking that home. Yes, you do. I mean, I believe that. I mean, obviously, if you read the Bible, God is confident.
Yeah.
That's his nature. I think that he would want us to live in that too, and handing over that sass stick and being like, you know what? Don't let. Yeah, I think it's like that too. Don't let anybody look down on you because you're young.
Yes.
Yeah. Come on.
Changes the whole game, really. I think when you read it like that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You can be a leader at a young age. You can be a good example at a young age. You can be confident in your speech and all of these things. I love that. Okay, this is firing me up today.
Awesome.
Love it.
Well, hey, Riley's going to be with us all of this week, so don't go anywhere. We usually wrap up the episode with a story from your life.
Okay.
But we've just had such a great chat in the initial 2 questions. I'm looking forward to diving deeper. Hey, tomorrow, a bit of a teaser, we are going to the book of Psalms. And tomorrow's verse is for anyone who feels a bit battered, who needs some hope. We're going to unpack that tomorrow on the Everyday Joy podcast. Riley, look forward to tomorrow.
I'll see you then.